Hi friends, hi, how's it going? How are you today? I hope that today finds you well. Today is another episode of my palette roulette series in which I review a palette that I have in my collection. You might also have in your collection. I'm super excited to dig into today's palette. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. So happy that you found me today. I hope that you will find that I am your perfect partner in crime for all things high-end colorful beauty and self-care. And I'm a lady of a certain age that is out here soothing my soul no matter what everybody is telling me. You can't wear this, you can't do that. I say, who cares what you're doing? You do you, boo. Do what soothes your soul. I'm gonna be doing what soothes my soul. Let's lock arms in this life and do it together, walk through this journey together. I think that you'll also find that I'm kind of a kick in the pants to hang out with on occasion. So I would love if you would subscribe to my channel before you go. Hopefully you like me or this channel enough that you choose to want to do that. And with that being said, let's roll into today's palette review. Today's palette that we are reviewing is the by Beauty Bay New Romantic palette. You guys can see this is a beautiful cardboard palette. It is this really like baby doll pink with New Romantic spelt out in this slanted italicized font that is beautifully done with swirly floral behind it, and the outer carton comes all in this like motif. I really love too that the lettering on it that isn't the New Romantic is pink and beautiful and kind of gives you this like romantic thought process when you're looking at the palette. And this did launch in February 2021, so it is a relatively new palette, and it was launched for the Valentine's Day season, right? This palette does come in at 4.8 stars on the Beauty Bay website with 116 reviews, and on Google it does have 4.7 stars with 63 reviews. Just a reminder, it is a new palette. There are hardly any reviews out there, but I can tell you I do think that it is probably pretty fair, that 4.7, 4.8 star rating on either end of the spectrum. It is a fantastic palette. This palette costs $15 and there are 20 shadows inside of it that have 0.05 ounces of product per pan. So that means you are getting a ColourPop amount of product for less than $1 per pan, and these are far better than ColourPop shadows. I hesitate to say these are better than ABH. Like, y'all know how I feel about ABH, but I would replace my Modern Renaissance palette with this palette any day. It's gotten me to thinking about maybe decluttering my Modern Renaissance palette. Like, who am I? What? Yes. So, By Beauty Bay is a UK beauty brand, and they have their own website, and on their website they sell all kinds of things from different brands on their website, but they also have their own brands. So kind of like Ulta with the Ulta Beauty cosmetics as well, and Sephora with their own brand. By Beauty Bay is Beauty Bay's own brand of cosmetics, and it is like drugstore pricing. This shadow palette does state on the back of it, as well as unit carton, as well as online, that it does have pigments in this eyeshadow palette that are not safe according to the US FDA for use around the eye area. A lot of the reasons why brands use pigments that aren't safe for around the eye area is because they want to be cruelty-free and vegan. This is cruelty-free and vegan. It is also limited edition, and I think there are some similarities with some products that I have, some other palettes that I have in my collection, and I will dig into that a little bit later. Because there are shadows in here that do have that pigment in it that the USA does not think is safe around the eye area. You are going to see some staining, potentially some irritation, but because this is a UK based brand, it doesn't tell you which one of those shadows in this palette is like that. They don't have to, right? But there are 20 different shades in here. They all range in the reds and berries and like floral, like rosy tones. To be honest, there is some browns in here though, and some lighter colors that make it very everyday friendly in my opinion as well. I'm kind of wearing an almost everyday eye look for many people, minus that maybe pop of green in the inner corner, which came from a ColourPop Super Shock that I have in my Shop My Stash. This is a very everyday friendly eye look, and it all came from this palette. This has 8 shimmers and 12 mattes in it, so you're going to get a good balance of shimmers to mattes. I prefer a little more shimmers, but I do love the mattes that are in this palette. I do think that those 12 mattes are great mattes. I also think that the 8 shimmers in this palette are probably all that you need to go with the color stories in this palette. I never got bored with using the color story in this palette, even though it looks very one lane. It is actually quite impressive how many different colors you actually get from this palette. And I do also love that it has this black in here because you can deepen up anything else. And this brown here also is in my eye look today, and you can deepen up a lot with it too. These 2 colors though can go very awry very fast. So a little dabble do you. I didn't, upon like swatching this black, think that it was a very great black, but it is crazy how much pigmentation comes off from this black. It's like the blackest black in my collection. I would say that there is a balance of lighter and deeper shades with this palette, which I can appreciate. I think that that helps it be very usable across many different skin tones. I think that it also is super pigmented in the way that even this lightest tone looks good on a lighter toned person or a deeper toned person. I think that it doesn't appear like dusty or ashy in an eye look. In my opinion, it could go very, very well on a deep skin tone, just as well as it does on a very fair skin tone, which is something that I like to dig into with the lightest shade in a palette, because sometimes those can turn out looking a little bit ashy on a darker skin tone. I did do some research on the YouTubes, and there are many people of color ranging in different skin tones doing looks with this palette, and they look so stunning. So stunning. Most of the shades are pretty opaque upon first application. I think that the only ones that I had to really build up to get the shadow color that I wanted were this one here, and I think that's about it actually. This one here is the only one that I really struggled with getting this color in the opacity I wanted it to be on my eyelid, just for buffing out other shadows. All the other shades in this palette really do appear on an eye look the way they appear in the pan. Most of the shadows also had little to no fallout. There was some fallout with some of the shimmer colors. I didn't notice it with these 2 shimmers on my lid now, but I did notice it, you know, most specifically with this color here. I did notice it a little bit with this color here, and a lot with this shimmer right here. I would say that there is a little bit of inconsistency in the shimmer formulations. Some of them are very creamy and go on the eye very well, and some of them are a little bit more chunky and flaky and dry. But all of them performed very well in any eye look that I put them in, whether wet or dry, whether over the top of a glitter glue or no. The eye look that I have put together today has no glitter glue, and it is not really got a concealer backing on it. It's not a cut crease. I just put the shadow over the top of everything else going on the eye look, and I think it looks rather nicely. You can definitely see the gold to copper to deep brown in the eye look, and then the like rosy brown on top. I think that the eye look, you can see the different gradients of color without me having to like definitely point it out to everybody. And especially for the shimmers, like the fact that it just goes from one to the next without there being like this muddy mess of them. They play very well with each other, and I appreciate that, but they also go on a dry eyelid. They go on a wet eyelid. They perform well wet. They perform well dry. You don't have to have glitter glue, and I did not see any kind of fallout with these shimmers. All of the shadows blend very nicely. There's no like patchiness that I saw at all, except for with this deeper brown. This deeper brown does take a little bit more finessing to get it to blend just right, but what I was really trying to do was, you know, create a smaller line of this deep dark brown, and I was going in with too big of a brush. I think I needed to get a little more detailed with my brushwork, and I might not have seen that patchiness. So sometimes that patchiness is the fault of user error. Today I do think that that was the case because I had used that deeper brown in other eye looks, and like I said, they can go awry very quickly, but I did not experience any patchiness. With that said, many of the shimmers seem super multifaceted. I loved the fact that I could put them on with different colors and they kind of tended to look a little bit different. This copper in my eye look today looks a little more red brown than it does copper orange, and this is the shadow here, which paired with this color and this color looks a little more orange. I think I do have an eye look that you will see that it looked like an orange shimmer versus a brown shimmer or a copper shimmer. And I know that there are many shadows that do that as well, but like this one here is, even though it was kind of flaky, in my opinion, it went really well over the top of many other shimmers in this palette to give them a little bit different of an effect. And this one here kind of has this like almost white rose goldness to it that is just so pretty. This one here is very kind of like pink or red or coral, dependent on how you move around with it. And I'm not saying these are multi-chromes. I know that they're not, but they're just such beautiful shimmers in my opinion. They create a little bit more of an impact in your eye look than I think you originally anticipate going into a $15 eyeshadow palette. So with that said, this is what the palette looks like on the outside. The container is a cardboard container, really nice magnetic closure. It does come with a like plastic piece in between the palette and the shadows to keep them safe. It says New Romantic here. It has a risen like bee, very tactile risen bee down here, and then down here it just says your 20 color palette. On the other side, it has a little blurb here. It says it's time to get intimate with the By Beauty Bay New Romantic palette. Inside, you'll find 20 shades in all warm berry and blossom tones you could possibly need. Each silky soft shadow buffs and blends seamlessly into the lid, whilst your iconic matte and shimmer formulas have intense color payoff that lasts all day. You're about to fall in love with your latest obsession. I can speak to the fact that these do buff and blend very easily, and these do last all day. I put my eye makeup on one morning at around 8 a.m. and did not take it off until 2 o'clock in the morning the following day, and it still looked the same on my eye as it had the night before. I accidentally fell asleep with one of my eye looks on after going to a fundraiser for a friend of mine that has cancer the other day, and my eye look didn't look the same, obviously, but it looked better than I have seen other shadows look in the morning when I have fallen asleep on their face. And granted, I'm not saying it's a 24-hour eyeshadow, but I am seeing it lasts forever. And that was on, the first time was on an unprimed eye, and the second time was on a primed eye. I think that the performance of these shadows is great, whether primed or not primed. I do think the longevity is also great, whether primed or unprimed. These will stain your eyes. The biggest ones, the biggest culprits in my opinion, were the shade here, the brown here and this pink here. Those were the biggest culprits in my opinion. The other ones didn't really stain all that much, honestly, and the staining is gone by your second cleanse. So let's do some swatches. I'm just gonna go first row, second row, third row, fourth row, and I will try and get them all onto these two hands so that you guys can see them all together once we're done. I do appreciate that this has a giant mirror on it for travel purposes. It would be nice to have a mirror that you can just do your face with. And then I also appreciate that each one of these shadows has the name of the shadow on the palette. You guys know how I feel about that. So we're just going to do some swatches. I will say that these are a little bit powdery in the pan. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is some powder kick up that just happened just from me sticking my finger in. There is a little bit of powder in the pan. It doesn't typically translate onto your eye look though, so I appreciate that about them. So the first one here is Vanilla, and it is just a matte that is a cream color, and it's a really pretty shade to blend out. I found that even though this palette didn't have a white, which I really like white shadows for brow bone, inner corner, whatever, this cream really did exemplify what I needed for the warmer tones in this and not making my eye look super stark in the brow bone area as well as the inner corner. It is in my brow bone today, and you can see it's just such a soft white shade that looks very good with these shadows. So the second one here is called Birthday, and it is a really light baby pink, and it is also a matte shade. Then we have the only shimmer in that row, and this one is called Oyster. This one is the one that I told you had kind of like these pinky reflex in it, but it is a shimmer in Seashell. You can see it all on my shirt now too. How awesome is that? Then we have this one here, which is called Flamingo, and it is just what it says. It's kind of a flamingo pink shade. I loved this shadow. It was so, so pretty in most of my eye looks. And then we have this one here, which is really like light brown, almost taupey shade, and it is called Lingerie. Row 2 looks like this. All the pinks and purples. The first one is this one, and it is called Milkshake, and it is a matte also, and it is a hot pink matte. That looks so inviting, doesn't it? Oh, I think it looks beautiful. It is a color that I used pretty often. This is Chintz, and this is the shimmer that I did say was a little bit on the chunky side, but it's also very creamy to the touch, and man, you can see just how well it does right there. Look at that. It's kind of got like a grayish thought process to it. I found that I couldn't really partner this very much with the other shadows in the palette. I didn't think it looked very good as a shimmer all over the lid with anything that I paired it with. So I ended up using it more as a topper. So just lightly tapping in with my finger and then tapping it onto an eye look. I felt like it did perform very, very well like that. Then we have this matte, which is called Claret, and it is a matte burgundy red. It really does have that burgundy tone to it, even though I don't think it looks like it. In the viewfinder here, I think it looks more red, but it is deeper. It is more of a burgundy. And then we have this shimmer here, which is called Queen, and Queen is a burgundy toned shimmer to go with that burgundy toned matte. And then we have this matte here, which is called Smoothie, and it is just such a really pretty soft berry. It reminds me of the triple berry smoothies that you could get from like Orange Julius back in the day. I don't know if you still can, but I am not anywhere near an Orange Julius anymore, but it is really a beautiful berry toned shimmer or matte. Okay, the battery died, and in this new setup, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing. So it's been about 20 minutes. give or take. I still have the colors on my hand. I tried to be very, very careful, but let's dig into the last 2 rows of this palette. These are the shadows in the 3rd row in this palette, and our first shade here is that copper shade. It is called Penny. I think that that is a very suitable name for this shadow. This is a shimmer, it is a copper, and it is stunning, just saying. All right, next one we have is this one. It is a matte shadow. It is called Embers, and it is like a burnt orangey brown shadow. It is the shadow in my eye look today in the upper sections of my eye look. I love this shadow. I think it's beautiful. I also have it underneath to buff out the dark brown under my eyelid, or under my eye, my lower lash line. And then we have this shadow, which is another shimmer. It is so pretty. You guys can see that. It kind of wanes between pink and red and orange. It's kind of got this multi-tonal effect to it, but it isn't. It's called Raspberry, and it is a raspberry pink shimmer. So pretty. Then we have this one, which is another matte, and it is kind of like a burgundy brown matte, and it is called Mars. And then we have this shimmer here, which is also stunning. It reminds me of grape jelly, and it is called Royal, and it is just so pretty. Such a pretty shimmer. It's I think that this one's a little more raspberry. This is the last row in the palette, and the first one is just a matte brown. It is also in my eye look today, and it is called Muffin. It's very chocolate. It's reminds me of milk chocolate for sure. Then we have this one here, which is called Khaki, and it is a gold. It is in my eye look today. It does have kind of this like green, like olive green feel to it. I think that it is a stunning gold actually, and y'all know how I feel about golds. Then we have this one here, which is in my eye look today. It's like a blackened brown. It is called Saddle, and it is like a really deep, like leather brown. It is so dark that it could come across as a black in your eyeshadow look, depending on where you want to go with it. Maybe like a softer black. This shimmer here, which is called Valentine, and it is just a really pretty, like almost burgundy shimmer. And then we have Ink, which is the black. It doesn't really necessarily swatch very good. It looks more like a charcoal in the swatch, but you guys, I'm telling you, this black is insane in an eye look. In that palette, I just do think that this palette to me looked very one-noted when I first looked at it, and I was concerned about it being one-noted, but I think that you can see in these swatches it really does have the aptitude to be more of an everyday palette for very many people. If you are super fond of reds, then this is probably a really great shadow palette for you, because you're going to have your pick of the litter as far as it goes with red tones. I do think that the shimmers that are in this palette are perfectly suited for the other colors in this palette. I think that that matte black is just a stunning matte black. I do think I have better matte blacks, or at least compensatory matte blacks in my shadow collection. This does produce an awful lot of kick up in the pan, but I didn't really notice it ever translating on my face. So I really wanted to kind of bring a couple palettes into this palette Roulette and kind of go through, like, I think that this kind of looks like the Natasha Denona Love palette. It's an ABH Modern Renaissance, but I thought I would pull the Natasha Denona Love palette down here and also the ABH Modern Renaissance, and we could look at them side by side so that you guys could be the judge on that. All right, friends, here is Modern Renaissance, which actually, now looking at it, I don't know that it is as as much duping it as I think maybe bettering it, honestly. So here are those two palettes next to each other. I think that some of the shades in here are very, you can see that they definitely dupe them. Like, I think that this shade here and this shade here, I mean, this one from Modern Renaissance does look a little bit more light. Oh, they're not dupes, but they're very, very close. I feel like even this shade here and this one here, even though this one definitely is a whole lot more berry, and this one is definitely very, very pink, maybe even, no, because that one's super pink. I think that, to be fair, they're maybe not dupes of each other, but I think you can definitely get the same vibe from this palette as you do this palette. Only this one has, you know, 6 more shades and I think is more versatile. I mean, my Modern Renaissance is getting pretty dang old, so consider decluttering that. Oh, what? Who the hell am I? Oh, yeah, now that they're up close to each other, I can definitely see it. You guys, these palettes are definitely, What do we think out there? I think also, like, this shade here, which is the deepest shade, and the Natasha Denona one looks black, isn't black. It's more of like a grape, whereas this is definitely a black, right? And it's a matte, whereas this one is not. This one's a shimmer. I think that there are several. Let me know if you want like a one eye, one palette, one eye, the other palette kind of video. I think that that would actually be fun to do with these two palettes. I definitely love the palette. I think that it's a great palette to have, and I'm super excited to have it in my life, and I'm super excited to have tried Beauty Bay. Now, this was one of the brands on my wish list for the year, brands that I was looking for this year, and I'm super excited to have tried them. They're so inexpensive and such great quality shadows. I had a lot more fun with this palette that cost me $15 than I did with the Eloise palette last week that was supposedly a $54 shadow palette. Like, I'm blown away by the By Beauty Bay formula. Just my experience with this just one palette, I will continue to purchase from the brand. Like, they've caught my attention. I think that, I mean, when it comes down to it, when I'm saying this palette this $15 palette could replace an ABH palette amongst my ranks, and I am an ABH stan, that's got to stand for something. It will never replace Natasha Denona in my mind, but they sure did their darndest. They did. So with that being said, I'm going to go pull another palette that we will come back and review next week, and I will catch you in a second. All right, the palette that I'm going to be reviewing next week is the Be Perfect Carnival 3 palette. This is in conjunction with Stacey Marie. She's a makeup artist. This is the Love Tahiti palette, and this has been a palette on my wish list for so long. I wanted something that was going to be fun. We do have the 4th of July Independence Day holiday coming up. I knew I wanted something that had, you know, reds, whites, and blues in it, and this suits that so well, but also has a plethora of different colors to utilize in it. And I am on vacation this week, so I am so excited to just get some playtime in with this palette. I've seen so many of my beloved creators that I watch work magic things with this palette, so I cannot wait to play with it. And if you guys are also interested in what it has to offer, I cannot wait to see you next week. Know that I will be here next Monday reviewing this palette, and I hope that that will let you know that it is time. It is time to subscribe. If you come here and watch these videos and you're not subscribed yet, well, what are you waiting for? I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. I hope that you hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single time I upload a video. And with that said, you guys, I hope that you are having an awesome June, or did have an awesome June. I think we're almost done with it at this point. I hope that you guys have an awesome first week of July, and for those of you that celebrate Independence Day here in the US, happy 4th of July to you, because I won't see you, well, I won't be coming back to you for another palette roulette until after the 4th. So have an amazing Independence Day, a safe Independence Day, and I hope that you and yours are well. I hope that you all are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends.